The MG MS-90 Dom from 1979's Mobile Suit Gundam is the first Master Grade release of 2022. But if there is one thing you need to know about this kit, is that it isn't necessarily new. This is by no means a Master Grade Dom 2.0, this is more like a Dom 1.5, which means that half of the runners that make up this kit are from the original Master Grade iteration of this kit from 1999. So yeah, a large percentage of what makes up this kit is 23-year-old technology. Now that might sound like a huge disappointment at first, and it is a very weak start for Master Grade Gunpla in 2022, especially because the next release is essentially just this kit again with some minor changes. However, it isn't all bad news. This kit packs in some new parts and runners which you would have seen in 2019's premium Bandai exclusive Dwaj and Dwaj Custom, including new arms, fully posable emotion manipulator hands, an updated torso and peg-style hip joints instead of the old-school ball joint hips. It is also worth noting that the plastic used in this kit is of modern quality, and it doesn't just feel like they completely repurposed a Master Grade kit that's a quarter of a century old. When it comes to the build, the Master Grade Dom is pretty straightforward. In general, it is a lot of large parts and it all snaps together perfectly. There are no real smaller intricate parts in this build, and even the most minute aspects of the head are simple and easy to deal with, which is all very suited to a mass-produced mobile suit. This kit right here is a bit of a hybrid, containing parts from the original Master Grade Dom from 1999, parts from 2019's Dwaj, and some but not a lot of brand new parts for this 2022, or should I say 2021, variant of Zeon's Purple Beast. The new parts are noticeably nicer than the older parts, down to the knob placement and general sculpt. But because Bandai are using new plastic and a lot of new exterior armor parts, this kit is surprisingly good for an old kit with just some updates. So I'm going to guess that the original Master Grade must have been impressive when it first came out. As for the weapons in this kit, all of which come from older kits, and we do get a bazooka from the Master Grade Zaku 2.0 in here. On the whole though, the build of the weapons is a very classic feeling experience and not comparable to modern Master Grade releases like the Eclipse and the Virtue, so some might find this a bit of a disappointment. Considering this kit's pedigree, I have to say the overall aesthetics are actually more impressive in person than I was expecting. Now I have to say right away that I'm an absolute sucker for the classic Dom design. The hulking, thick monoid silhouette really does conjure up images of the Cyclops from Greek mythology, and its lumbering rigid movements give it a terrifying real robot flair. I have built all three variants of the Dom 1.5 that have been released so far, that being the Dwaj Custom, and now this kit right here. And I have to say there is something about the original classic Dom color scheme that really makes this stand out from the bunch. And that simplistic late 70s design really shows through here. As for the plastics that make up this kit, they all look astounding, but you will have to take some extra care with the knobs on the purple plastic as it is inclined to mark easily. Mold and seam lines are also minimal, but there is one large obvious mole line on the rear of both forearms, so you may have to deal with that if you want to. We have colorless clear parts for the visor and the scattering beam gun in the chest, but I will mention the scattering beam gun is meant to be yellow, not colorless clear. But hey, a yellow Sharpie will sort that out in 5 seconds flat. When it comes to the translucent plastics, we also have clear pink parts included for the mono eye, as well as for the lens in one of the bazookas. I will also mention there are decals included, so if you do want to make that mono eye opaque instead of translucent, well, you can do that. And it does need to be mentioned right here that these are water slide decals. Now that is unusual. I don't know the last time a non-premium Bandai Master Grade release came with water slides, but it's definitely a hugely welcome addition. What we get in here when it comes to these decals, these are very simple, very classy, look great, and we do have unit numbers if you want to detail up a unit. When it comes to the overall detail on the Dom, it is very simple with large rounded empty surfaces that leads me onto my main point when it comes to this kit's looks. I feel like this kit doesn't really know what it wants to be. It's neither fully anime accurate nor a realistic scale model. It doesn't have the over-the-top anime proportions and hands like we would have seen with the Robot Damashi Ver anime figure, nor does it have the level of exterior surface detail we've seen so far on modern 1/100 Universal Century kits. As for what has changed visually compared to the 1999 release of the Master Grade Dom, Bandai mentions this kit has improved exterior parts at the waist and arms. The shape of the arms has also been modified so that the connection between the shoulder and the forearm looks natural, and the joint structure of the elbows has been renewed completely. Lastly, this kit does have a whole bunch of verniers under its armor if you are a fan of thrusters, but I will mention that next month's Rick Dom does come with much fancier ones on pretty much the exact same mobile suit. The sandwiched red parts under the skirting armor, the ankle armor, and the shoulders is also a really nice touch, adding a feeling of depth and strength to the armor. So yeah, on the whole, visually this is a kit that is very basic looking, but if you are a fan of basic old school designs like the Dom right here, this will definitely be for you, but this is not a kit visually for everyone. Jumping onto the accessories, and in here we get quite the armory, which is always great when it comes to a grunt suit. Meaning that if you do have a whole team of these guys, you can outfit each member with completely different equipment. However though, one negative aspect to the equipment is everything in here is quite dated besides the heat rod, as it all comes from the 1999 version or the Zaku 2.0. The hands in here are the emotion manipulators, commonly referred to as the perfect grade style hands. These are completely posable, extremely dynamic, but at the same time they are a little difficult to clean up and very easy to break if you're not very careful. For close combat, the Dom is rocking its banana yellow heat saber, the newest weapon of the bunch, coming off a 2021 runner labeled Master Grade Dom. And this is exactly what it needs to be and no more. It's a big yellow stick. Just like all the weapons in this box, it's got a flip out tab to attach it into those emotion manipulators. So next up in here we've got the Rakuten Bazooka. Now once again this is from 1999, so it is very dated feeling and it looks dated too. The sculpt in the mold on this has that old school, very, what can I say, gelatinous or not very defined kind of look to it. The detailing isn't particularly great either, but from a distance, and if you've got a group of these, it won't look so bad, but definitely not up to this year's standard whatsoever. The clip section round back is removable, and we have a shield up front. The only thing that is new about this, and the same goes for all the weaponry in here, is the handle has been redesigned to work with the emotion manipulator hands. Next up and then we've got the giant bazooka, which would have came from the Zaku 2.0. So just like the Rakuten Bazooka, this has a new handle, but it doesn't have a tilting mechanism in the handle like the Rakuten Bazooka had. This instead just has two different attachment points for attaching into those emotion manipulators. Much like the Rakuten Bazooka as well, this is next to impossible to pose in both hands due to the kind of articulation on this kit we'll talk about a little bit later on. Once again, a little bit on the dated side, not quite as dated as the Rakuten Bazooka. Knobs on this are pretty bad, so there's going to be a lot of cleanup involved. And I will mention there is meant to be a clear part for inside of the lens here, but I dropped that while building this kit, and it must have fallen into that mysterious black hole that seems to appear on the floor every now and then when you drop something, in which two pieces just fall in and you never ever see them again. The next long-range weapon we have in here is the machine gun for MS. So once again, this is from 1999. It is a little bit on the dated side, mainly just the way it's produced. It's just the body segment of this is two pieces of plastic just slapped together. We have a magazine in it as well, that is two pieces slapped together, and we do have a moving segment for attaching it onto the hip. This particular weapon does not have an updated handle like the other weapons, so that means it doesn't actually attach into the emotion manipulator. You just kind of pop it into the hand, stick the finger into the trigger zone, and close up the rest of the hand and hope for the best. Most of the time this does hold on well, but if you shake the hell out of it, you'll see that it will eventually end up dropping it to some degree, especially because these hands can get a little bit loose over time, and like I mentioned, you can store this on the hip. In order to get to the hard points, you just pop off the cap like this. When it comes to what is left of the equipment in here, we've got a pair of portable rocket launchers known as Sturmfausts. Now you can have it in rocket launcher mode like this, or what I assume is what the rocket looks like once it's fired off, which is this variant. This can be held in the hand, or you can actually use this little adapter segment here that attaches onto the side skirt in order to mount the Sturmfausts on the unit itself. As for the last thing we have in here, then we have a pair of these, which are magazines for using with the gun. These are all stuck together, cannot be used with the actual gun, they're just more of a decoration. And the last thing I will mention about this kit is this has no base adapter whatsoever. So it actually shows in the manual you have to use one of the classic base adapter adapters to actually use this with. So that is very, very retro. This does actually work fine, it holds it very well, but it is strange again to see something that is completely and utterly outdated gunpla tech. So now moving on to the build and the articulation, and build-wise I will mention this is a rock-solid kit. It is a little bit bouncy at the hips, towards the legs a little bit, but these are some hefty legs. First off, by popping off the top of the head, we have full access to all the movement of the mono-eye. So this moves from side to side and up and down in that cross pattern, as you'd expect from a Dom. Just pop the top of the head back on, and there you've got your eye positioned where you need it. Simple, effective. The neck isn't bad either. We've got side to side right here, and an up and down, which lifts the head out of that little cradle segment, but a little bit limited, and I guess you could call that lower accurate. So apparently the shoulders here have been overhauled. We've got the full 360 spin here. If I pop these out, these are ball joints, which is by no means modern. And this joint right here, and I've mentioned it in the Dwaj and the Dwaj Custom, is a little bit on the annoying side because there's so much potential that is wasted. For example, if you do hyperextend that joint and pull it right on out of there, you get so much more, but this isn't meant to happen. As you can see now, the plastic is kind of, well, out where it shouldn't be, and this takes a lot of pushing and pressure that doesn't feel good, and you kind of have to separate it out, get in there. Like that. So you can get that out of it, but it is a little bit problematic. If you modify that, it might be a lot nicer actually. So next up, there is the arm all the way up, so not so bad. We actually have a nice tilt inside the torso right there. There it is all the way back down again. That full 360 spin at this upper section. The arms have been completely overhauled, so we've got a very nice bend at the elbow right there. Very clean, feels great. And we do have a nice double jointed wrist here, so we've got that little bit of a tilt and a full ball joint on top of that. Actually, you can get a bit of flexion out of the wrist as well, which is very impressive. And of course, you've got every joint on the finger, or should I say even fingers, that you could ever want. The abs section here is quite liberal with the movement, which is quite nice. There it is all the way to the back, all the way forward, and we've got a side to side tilt as well. We do have the cockpit section right here, which can be a little bit difficult to open, not so bad. We've got a pilot figure inside of that in black. Front skirting armors are on ball joints, but we mainly get up and down, a little bit of side to side, but not a whole lot. There are side skirtings, but these are pretty much paralyzed. And we do have nothing here at the butt flap, but underneath here we do have some moving verniers, so you can adjust those for whatever pose that you're pulling off. And speaking of verniers, we've got some back here, which you can also move around quite nicely, mainly side to side it seems. And I totally forgot about this right here. This bit opens up like so, and that is where you can store your heat rod when it is not in use. Forgot to mention that in the accessories. So according to Bandai, the hips in here have been overhauled. So if I just pull off the leg, whoa, what the hell is that? It's not supposed to be in there. Get out of there. So yeah, inside of here we do have a dropping mechanism, and this whole thing has been overhauled from the standard static ball joint waists we would have seen in the 1999 version. So that also does mean we have a nice rotating upper joint right here, and one that moves up and down like a bit of a hinge in there. So what we actually get when it comes to the kicks is that all the way up to the front, which isn't so bad for such a thick dude. There it is all the way out to the back, so it is a little bit blocked. And as for the splits, once again blocked by all of that armor, but you could get more if that was not in the way. We have the full 360 spin at the upper leg, well, yeah, full 360. So as for the knee bend in here, once again, for such a thick kit, this isn't so bad. And we also have a nice moving knee aspect right here too. So once again, there it is all the way bent, and there it is brought all the way up. Apparently the ankle on this has been overhauled as well. There it is all the way up and down, side to side. Actually, let's get that on the ground to check out the functional movement we get from that. So there it is all the way to the back, which is pretty much straight up. And there it is tilted all the way to the front. And then there is the side to side pivot. So mainly just to the front and towards the body. And according to Bandai, that is to pull off the classic Dom crouch. So let's see what we can get out of that. Those big legs kind of get in the way a little bit, but we would get something. A little something like that. So pretty cool. Not too bad. What can we say? It's a mass-produced, big, bulky, early generation mobile suit Gundam grunt suit. So I guess we can't really be expecting a whole lot more, but it is quite limited. So when it comes to the 2022 version of the Master Grade Dom, now I've never had my hands in the 1999 version, but this one right here does feel quite classic. Even though we do have some modern aspects like some nice new arms, new hips, some new aspects in the legs and new armor here and there, a lot of this is very, very classic. We have a lot of the old aspects in here, all the weapons are very, very dated, and a lot of the aspects of this is almost a quarter of a century old. That is absolutely mad, but on the whole it does end up okay. We've got some nice hands, it's fun to play around with, and if you are a classic Universal Century fan, you love the old school looks, but that's it entirely. This is very, very old school, so if you're looking for the next best Master Grade coming out from Bandai, this isn't it. So if you're okay with this just being a classic 1999 Dom with some new aspects added to it to make it a little bit more modern, then I say 100% go for it. I absolutely adore it, even though it isn't what we'd expect from Bandai with a Master Grade in 2022, which means this is of course bronze tier. As always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to come back for more Gunpla reviews, and I'll see you next time. As always, this video and none of these videos would be possible without each and every one of you watching these videos, including those of you who are supporting me on the channel memberships and over on Patreon, including VanFon, OG59061, Lawrence Seahack, Kill Me Inc., Joseph Kukluk, Joe, Gunpla UK Limited, Global Frequency Studios, Forsetti, Caleb Engelhart, and Craig Jerry.